This is a dramatized story inspired by real debt situations. For educational and entertainment purposes only. Not legal or financial advice.
Section 1. Hook, 0-30 seconds. $73,000. That's what my marriage left me with. Not savings, not equity, just debt with both our names on it and only my income to pay it back. I was 43 years old, a small business owner, and I was starting over in a one-bedroom apartment with a mattress on the floor and a stack of envelopes I was too afraid to open. At 43, I thought I knew what rock bottom meant. I didn't, not yet. What happened over the next 8 months, the mistakes I made, the calls I got, the one conversation that finally changed the math, that's what this story is about. Section 2. Reality, 3 to 4 minutes. Let me back up to January. Marcus Webb. That's me, 43 years old. I'd owned a small landscaping and lawn care business in Columbus, Ohio for 9 years, Webb Outdoor Services. At our peak, we had 6 crews, a fleet of 4 trucks, and about $380,000 in annual revenue. Not rich, but solid. Middle class, comfortable, the kind of life you think you've earned. My wife Diana and I had been married for 11 years. We had a daughter, Kayla, who was 8 at the time. We had a 4-bedroom house in Westerville, a neighborhood where the lawns are green and the driveways are clean and everyone waves when they drive past. From the outside, we looked fine. We weren't fine. The business had started to slip in 2021. Supply chain issues hit hard, fuel costs tripled, equipment parts were back-ordered for months. I had to replace a commercial mower at $14,000 that I couldn't afford. I took out a small business loan for $28,000 to cover the gap. Then another one 6 months later for $18,000. I told myself it was temporary. I'd make it back in spring. Spring came, then summer. The revenue didn't bounce back the way I planned. Meanwhile, Diana and I had been using credit cards to fill in the household gaps. Groceries, Kayla's dance lessons, a family vacation we absolutely could not afford but took anyway because I was too proud to cancel it. By the time we separated in October, our joint credit card debt across 4 cards was $31,400. Then there was the car. I had a 2020 F-150 work truck with $19,200 still owed on it. Diana had a leased Pilot. The lease was in my name. That was another $490 a month. And there were medical bills, $6,800 from a surgery Diana had in 2022 that insurance only partially covered. We'd ignored those bills for so long, they'd gone to a collection agency. When I sat down in February, after the divorce was finalized, and wrote every single number on a piece of yellow legal pad. This is what I saw. Business loan. 1. $24,200 remaining business loan. 2. $16,700 remaining joint credit cards transferred to my name per the divorce decree. $31,400 F-150 auto loan. $19,200 Honda Pilot lease. $8,600 remaining medical collection. $6,800 personal credit card I'd opened during the divorce. $1,400 total. $111,000. Wait, I said $73,000 at the start. Here's why. Diana took the house. It sold at a small loss. After the settlement, her portion of the business loans was written off against her share of the home equity. What I was left responsible for, after everything was divided by the courts, was $73,000 in personal and business debt. My monthly take-home from the business, which was barely limping along now with 2 crews and no new contracts, was about $3,800 a month. My minimum payments alone totaled $2,940 a month. That left me $860 for rent, utilities, food, gas, Kayla's expenses on my weekends, and everything else. The math didn't work. I knew it didn't work. And I kept pretending it would. Section 3. Emotional crisis. 3 to 4 minutes. Have you ever had one of those nights where you lie completely still because moving feels like it would cost energy you don't have? That was February for me. And March. And most of April. I remember the first collection call at 7:48 in the morning. I was pulling out of my apartment parking lot to go check on one of my crews, and my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered it. "Is this Marcus Webb?" "Yeah." "Mr. Webb, this is a call from Meridian Recovery Solutions regarding an account with an outstanding balance of $6,800. This is an attempt to collect a debt. Do you have a moment?" I hung up. I sat in my truck in that parking lot for 11 minutes. I didn't go anywhere. I just sat. The calls came every day after that. Different numbers, sometimes twice before noon. I started sending everything to voicemail. Then I stopped checking voicemail. I had 47 unheard messages by May. My credit score, which had been 701 in January, dropped to 588 by March. I checked it on Credit Karma one night and genuinely felt sick. That FICO score number meant everything was about to get harder. My business insurance was up for renewal and carriers check credit. My truck loan interest was variable and tied to my credit worthiness. Every door I might need to walk through was quietly closing. The shame was the worst part. I hadn't told anyone. Not my brother, not my parents. My mom is 71 and she would have handed me her savings account without blinking, and I couldn't let that happen. My dad had always said I was the responsible one. I had a business. I was the one who made it. What was I supposed to say now? I had Kayla every other weekend. She's 8. She notices everything. One Saturday, she asked me why there wasn't a couch yet, and I told her we were keeping it simple. She looked at my mattress on the floor setup and said, "Daddy, this looks like camping." I laughed. I went into the bathroom after she was asleep, and I sat on the edge of the tub, and I cried in a way I hadn't cried since my dad had his heart attack 6 years ago. I was 43 years old, and I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor of a one-bedroom apartment crying in my bathroom, so my daughter wouldn't hear me. Something had to change, but I didn't know what, and that not knowing was its own kind of terror. Section 4. Wrong choices. 2 minutes. Before I found the right path, I found every wrong one. The first mistake, I took out a payday loan in March, $800. I needed it to cover a supply order for a client job. My business account was overdrawn, and the client payment was coming any day. The payday loan carried an APR I didn't look at carefully. When I looked later, it was 391%. I paid it back in 3 installments and lost $340 in fees on an $800 loan in 6 weeks. The second mistake, balance transfers. I got a mailer, one of those 0% for 15 months credit card offers, and I moved $8,000 from my highest interest card to the new card. What I didn't factor in was the 3% transfer fee, $240, the fact that I was still charging the original card, and that the 0% rate would spike to 99% if I missed a single payment. 3 months later, I had 2 cards with balances instead of 1, and nothing was actually paid off. The third mistake, and this one still makes me wince, I pulled $6,200 from my SEP IRA. I'd built up a small retirement fund through the business, just under $40,000. I thought I was being smart. I'll pay off the medical collection, and that's one less thing. What I didn't fully process was the 10% early withdrawal penalty plus ordinary income tax. That $6,200 withdrawal cost me about $2,100 in taxes and penalties. I essentially paid $2,100 to borrow from my own future. And through all of this, I was hiding it. I told my brother I was restructuring the business. I told my parents the divorce settlement was manageable. I let calls go to voicemail. I shoved envelopes into a kitchen drawer and stopped opening them. I was building a wall between myself and reality, and every week that wall got a little higher. Until the letter came. A formal summons. The medical collection agency. The $6,800 bill had filed a civil suit against me. I had 28 days to respond, or they could seek a default judgment, which could lead to wage garnishment. I sat at my kitchen table with that letter for a long time. I couldn't hide from this one. Section 5. Turning point, 2 to 3 minutes. I called my older brother Darnell that night. It was almost 10 p.m. I told him everything. The number, $73,000. The lawsuit, the retirement account I'd raided, the payday loan, the credit score, all of it. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You need to talk to someone who actually knows this stuff. Not me, a professional." He texted me a link to the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, NFCC.org. He said a coworker of his had used a nonprofit credit counseling agency through that network when his credit card debt got out of hand. "Just call them," Darnell said. "It's free to talk." I made the call the next morning. I spoke with a certified credit counselor named Patricia. She didn't judge me. She asked me to walk through every debt, the amounts, the interest rates, who the creditors were. She listened. She asked questions I hadn't thought to ask myself. Then she laid out my options clearly. And this is where the education started to click. She said, "Marcus, based on what you're describing, you have a few paths. Let's go through them." She said a debt management plan through a nonprofit agency might help consolidate my credit card interest rates, potentially reducing them significantly. But with $73,000 in mixed debt, including business loans and a pending lawsuit, it might not be comprehensive enough. She recommended I also speak with a bankruptcy attorney, not because bankruptcy was definitely the answer, but because I needed to understand what it could and couldn't do for me. She said many attorneys offer a free initial consultation, and I should take that seriously. I made an appointment with a bankruptcy attorney the following week. Sitting across from that attorney, I heard two terms explained clearly for the first time: Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7, bankruptcy, she explained, is a liquidation process. It can discharge many types of unsecured debt like credit cards and medical bills relatively quickly, often within 4 to 6 months. But it requires passing a means test, and it has limitations. It doesn't help with certain business debts secured by assets, and the impact to your credit is significant. It stays on your credit report for up to 10 years. Chapter 13 is different. It's a reorganization plan. You keep your assets, but you follow a court-approved repayment plan, usually 3 to 5 years, that restructures what you owe into something manageable based on your actual income. It stays on your credit report for 7 years. For someone like me, with a business I was trying to keep alive, it offered protection from creditors while I reorganized. She was honest. "I can't tell you which path is right without a full review of your finances, and whatever we discuss here today, you should make sure you're comfortable with the decision before moving forward. Consult with more than one professional if you need to. This is your financial life." I respected that. I didn't feel sold to. I felt, for the first time in months, like someone was giving me a map instead of just telling me I was lost. Section 6. Educational info. 1 to 2 minutes. Let me break down what I learned, not as advice for you, because I'm not a financial professional and your situation is different from mine. Always consult a licensed professional before making any decisions. But here's what helped me understand my options. Chapter 7, bankruptcy, can discharge unsecured debts like credit cards and medical bills. Fast process, often 4-6 months. Requires a means test based on income. Impact to your credit score and FICO score is serious, up to 10 years on your report. Not ideal if you have significant assets you want to keep. Chapter 13. Bankruptcy. A repayment plan over 3 to 5 years. You keep your property. Good option if you have regular income and want to restructure without liquidation. Stays on credit report 7 years. Can stop foreclosure proceedings if your home is at risk. Debt consolidation. Combining multiple debts into one loan, often with a lower interest rate. Works best if your credit score is still good enough to qualify for a favorable rate. Doesn't reduce the principal you owe, just potentially lowers interest. Credit counseling through a nonprofit. Can set up a debt management plan. Negotiating lower rates with creditors. Usually takes 3 to 5 years. Won't help with secured debts or business loans. Doesn't hurt your FICO score the way bankruptcy does. Debt settlement. negotiating with creditors to pay less than you owe. Significant risks. Creditors can still sue you during the process. Forgiven debt may be taxable income, and the hit to your credit score can be severe. Collection lawsuits. Like the one I faced, if a collection agency gets a judgment, they may be able to garnish wages or bank accounts. Responding, with legal help, is always better than ignoring a summons. And with any IRS debt, which I didn't have, but many people in similar situations do, there are separate processes: installment agreements, offers in compromise. The IRS has options, but again, get professional guidance. The bottom line, there is no universal right answer. What matters is understanding your specific numbers and getting advice from a licensed bankruptcy attorney or certified credit counselor, not a for-profit debt relief company promising things that sound too good to be true. Section 7. Resolution. 1-2 minutes. I filed Chapter 13 in June. I'm not going to tell you it was easy. It wasn't. The process is humbling. There's paperwork that feels endless. There's a trustee who reviews your finances. There's a repayment plan that takes discipline every single month. But here's what Chapter 13 did for me. It stopped the collection calls immediately. It halted the civil lawsuit from the medical collection agency. It gave me breathing room to actually run my business again, to think about growth instead of just survival. And it restructured my payments into something I could actually manage on $3,800 a month. By August, my business had signed 2 new commercial contracts: a small office park and a homeowners association. Nothing dramatic, but forward motion, real forward motion. Kayla came over on a Saturday in September. I had a couch by then. Nothing fancy. $180 from Facebook Marketplace, clean and solid. She sat down on it, bounced a little, and said, "This is better than camping, Daddy." I laughed, and this time I didn't have to go cry in the bathroom. I'm not done. I have years left on my repayment plan. My credit score is rebuilding slowly. The business is smaller than it used to be, and that's okay. I'm 43, and I'm not starting over. I'm starting smarter. If you're in a place where you're hiding mail or letting calls go to voicemail or lying awake doing the math that doesn't work, I want you to hear this. There are real options. They're not magic. They come with trade-offs, but they exist, and knowing about them is the first step. Make the call. Talk to a nonprofit credit counselor. Schedule a free consultation with a bankruptcy attorney. Don't raid your retirement account at 2 a.m. because you're panicking. Get information first. You don't have to figure this out alone. Section 8. CTA. Get the free debt checklist in the description. It walks you through exactly how to organize your debts, who to call first, and what questions to ask a credit counselor or bankruptcy attorney. Link below. And if this story felt real to you, subscribe. There's a new story every week.